Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Cooper, and I am the Utility Director at the City of Pembroke Pines. I'm going to be presenting to you now a presentation that explains what happened to our city during Tropical Storm ETA, and I will be joined this evening by Mr. Kevin Hart, District Director of the South Broward Drainage District. So without further ado, I'd like to go into this presentation, which we've entitled Tropical Storm ETA, What Have We Learned and What Can We Improve Upon? First of all, we all know that the tropical storm arrived on Saturday and remained through Tuesday, leaving our streets and lakes flooded for days. The National Weather Service did indeed predict up to 15 inches or more of rainfall across our area, and in fact they were correct. After the storm, they published this graphic, which shows the reds on the graphic showing the most rainfall of the whole region occurred in Pembroke Pines. Our own information here supported all that. You can see that 4 neighborhoods are cited here. Hidden Lakes got 14.5 inches, Silver Lake 16, Grand Palms 21, and Chapel Trail 15.5 inches. Also on this graphic, you can see in yellow the letters S, F, W, M, D, and that's the South Florida Water Management's, that's what they consider a 100-year storm event, 14 to 15 inches in that area. So you can see that we indeed got the rainfall that was determined to be a 1 in 100-year probability, or a 1% chance of happening. So that's a lot of water, and in fact all that rainwater was stored in our streets and ponds, lakes, canals, sidewalks, and unfortunately many sewers were not functioning and backing up. This was a difficult and frustrating situation for hundreds of the residents. And very, very bad situation. Some people couldn't use their bathroom or even lost their cars in the flooding. And we're also getting reports now that some homes also got their floors wet during this terrible flooding. So what should we expect to happen after a rain like this? Well, according to the South Florida Water Management District, what they call a road storm would be about 4 to 6 inches of rain in a day. That's where the road is still passable, but the yards and the ditches get wet. They call a design storm 7 to 10 inches of rain in 3 days. That's when the roads get wet, but usually the buildings are dry. The 100-year storm, what we experienced, they categorized as 10 to 20 inches as a general rule in 3 days, 72 hours. And quote unquote, many houses and business can be expected to flood. So we can see here that actually we did very well. We got a 100-year storm and most houses were protected from the flood. Although it was a very inconvenient and unpleasant situation, the drainage system actually worked exactly how it was supposed to work. Well, what does all this mean? Well, it means that 14.5 to 21.5 inches of rain in 3 days is a 100-year storm. And we can expect the roads, ditches, yards, and many houses or businesses could be flooded. As I said, the good news is that very few, if any, houses and businesses were flooded. The bad news is that we had to put up with the terrible flooding for several days. A very bad and frustrating situation. One thing to note here is that even though they call it a 100-year storm, it's just a statistical term, and nobody knows when it could happen again. So hopefully it won't, but it certainly could. So flooding of the roads, yards, and ditches is actually expected. In fact, South Florida quotes here saying, standing water in streets and yards is not considered unusual, but actually a critical component of your neighborhood drainage facilities. So what they're trying to say there is that the flooding of the streets actually helped us by storing the water so it didn't go into the homes. Well, what about this business of the sewer backing up? Why did it happen, and should it be expected? Well, unfortunately, the fact of the matter is that when the roads are flooded, the sewers are flooded too. The flood waters enter the sewers through the manholes and cleanouts and the underground pipes, and the sewers and pumps are just not made to take that much water. So what happens is sewers are underwater, and the pumps are all trying to get to the sewer treatment plant. And I like to say that this is an analogy of you trying to get on I-95 at rush hour, you and everybody else. So when all the sewer pumps are on, it takes a whole lot longer for you to merge onto the interstate. It takes the pumps a whole lot longer to get to the sewer treatment plant. So unfortunately, yes, sewers can be backed up when streets are flooded. It's really to be expected. So who is responsible for rainwater drainage, and how does it work? Well, rainwater drainage is managed on 3 levels. First, the local streets are managed by the city and local homeowners associations. Secondly, the lakes and canals are managed by the South Broward Drainage District. And third, the big canals are managed by the South Florida Water Management District. So what was done by the city before the storm to prepare? Well, on this storm and every other named storm, city crews and contractors are deployed in advance to try to clear any of the catch basins that are known to be clogged. We receive notices on the internet and on the telephone about debris and stuff. We try to get everything done that we can, that we know about. Secondly, throughout the year, we do identify problems and try to do cleaning and maintenance. Sometimes the residents will tell us about this, and sometimes we observe it ourselves. And thirdly, the city does have an annual contract for maintenance to help keep the drainage functioning. What was done by South Broward Drainage before the storm? A question that's on everybody's mind is this question about how much the lakes were drawn down before the storm. Well, Mr. Hart will speak to this later, but the data that they have indicate that the water was drawn down as much as 2 feet in the far reaches of the system, and the lakes were likely to be a foot on average. That means some would have been more, some would have been less, and that's below normal. And prior to the storm and throughout the year, the canals and lakes and pipes are maintained and inspected for blockages and clogs. That's an ongoing thing by the district. They have an annual maintenance and budget for improving the canals and lakes, and they continually try to do that. Also, the district water pump stations and drainage gates are maintained on a regular basis to ensure that they are ready to operate in the event of major storms. So a lot of preparation going on. So what was done by South Florida Water Management before the storm? Well, the problem area, the area that got the most flooding for us and remained, was this area out west and north of Pines Boulevard that goes to the Griffin Road Canal. So that's called Canal number 11. And that's way up on Griffin Road, and their information indicates that they lowered that canal approximately 2 feet. So it was lowered 2 feet below normal in preparation for the storm. According to their website, throughout the year, they maintain their canals and inspect for blockages and clogs, and they maintain their drainage pump stations. So that was before the storm. What was done by the city after the storm? Well, as soon as it was safe, and not before, the city crews were deployed. The public services teams made maps of flooded areas and looked for clogged drains and deployed barricades to help drivers see the edge of the road better. After the storm, city crews entered the neighborhoods with these sewage vacuum trucks seen here for lift stations that were not working, were backed up, or there was a problem. They went and physically pulled the sewage out and drove it to the treatment plant. When sewer lift stations could not keep up, these tanker trucks were deployed repeatedly to those neighborhoods. We got a pause and thank you for the communications between the residents, the commissioners, and the city. It was very helpful as for us to know where the hot spots were, and we removed approximately 188 truckloads of sewage during the flood, trying to keep the toilets flushing. We also had crews in different vehicles throughout the city. We did respond to approximately 260 complaints and inquiries for residents. You can see here on this map, we mapped them all, keep track of it, and mapped everything, and we found that most of them in the west were seen in this map. There were some in the east, but not nearly as many. Also, after the storm, the city issued precautionary actions on the website regarding the proper hygiene and cautions about sewer backups. We were very concerned about the health and safety of the public, and so we issued these precautions based on the Florida Department of Health guidelines. You know, it's simple to say don't let the kids play in the waters, but it's not so easy, I know. But we must have common sense and take as much precaution as we can regarding sewer backups. We also thought it might be wise to distribute chlorine. We did receive a number of complaints that there was actually sewage remnants found on the grass, and we wanted to make sure that the residents had some means of sanitizing that. So we did offer that, and we provided some guidelines and caution. We asked that you use it very sparingly, follow the directions, be safe. But if there was concern, we wanted to make sure we had that covered. Also, after the storm, our crews went around to all the neighborhoods spraying with a bleach treatment to sanitize the spill areas that we could find. So what was done by South Broward Drainage District after the storm? Well, they continued around-the-clock monitoring, inspection, and maintenance to maximize their pumping capacities and keep their gates clear, keep the water flowing. There also was coordination with South Florida Water Management and to see what more could be done, and indeed more was done. Mr. Hart will explain some more of that. And they basically tried to move as much water out of the lakes as possible until everything could come down to their normal level as soon as physically possible. What was done by South Florida Water Management after the storm? Basically, they continued their pumping. They pumped that C11 canal like crazy so that they could get the water out of their canal so our canals could feed in there. They say on their website, after a heavy rain, water, streets, swales, yards, low-lying areas are expected. After a heavy rain, water in streets, swales, yards, and low-lying areas is expected and normal. So they expect it to happen, but I'm sure that they were pumping as fast as possible. These areas actually store water to function as critical components of the neighborhood drainage facility. And they say water may take longer to subside because the ground is saturated. So that just means that there's no place for the water to go in the ground. And as you know, we had a lot of rain in October, which contributed to this. Well, what have we learned and what can we improve upon? First, what have we learned? We've seen that Tropical Storm ETA produced rainfall amounts that were considered to be a 100-year storm, and that no one can predict when or where it may happen again. We've seen that the drainage pipes, lakes, canals are made to protect homes and businesses from the flooding. And we see that flooding of streets, swales, and yards are a critical part of protecting homes and businesses. We have seen that it takes time for the flooding to recede and lakes to return to their normal level. Well, what have we learned about sewer backups? We have learned that sewer backups, unfortunately, are an expected consequence of street flooding. That we really do need to follow common sense about sewer backups, and we shouldn't let kids play in the floodwaters. We should follow Department of Health guidelines for proper cleanup. And also, we must never open our sewer clean out. And let me tell you what I mean by that. Sewer clean out is a white pipe that comes up next to your home, and it's a direct connection to your sewer. It's the place where the Roto-Rooter man goes to clean out your pipes if you have a backup. So we were told that some neighborhoods were opening their sewer cleanouts to relieve the pressure on the house so they could flush their toilet. While that sounds like a good idea, it's actually a really, really bad idea. And so we just want to make it known to everybody that opening the sewer cleanout is a bad idea. It just puts your sewage on the ground, and then your neighbor's sewage on the ground comes floating over to your house, and it's just a real no-no. So unfortunately, the sewers, there was a lot of delay in getting them to work. It was a very difficult situation, but opening the clean out, we want to avoid that. That's a very bad health risk. So just let everybody know not to do that in your neighborhood. So what can the city improve upon? Well, first of all, we have identified some equipment that we can get some additional trucks to be able to respond faster. We do need to continue to invest in our infrastructure, in our piping. There are ways to reduce flooding, and we need to continue to invest in our infrastructure and try to limit the impact on the sewer. I like to say that we cannot flip a light switch and turn off the sewer problem, but we can turn the dimmer switch down by investing in infrastructure and reduce the amount of impact. Now, what can the South Broward Drainage District improve upon? Well, at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Kevin Hart. Mr. Hart is a professional engineer and has been district director of the South Broward Drainage District for 10 years. Mr. Hart, I will turn it over to you now, and you will finish off the presentation for us. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Commissioner Siple, City Manager Dodge, and Pembroke Pines residents. South Broward Drainage District is currently working on the following drainage improvement projects. The first is the installation of 3 new drainage sluice gates for areas that are south of Pines Boulevard and west of Southwest 184th Avenue. These will be adjustable gates that the district could operate before, during, and after major storm events, and they will replace fixed weir structures that are currently in place. And what this will do will allow the district to improve our ability to lower lake levels and water levels for those properties that are west of Southwest 84th Avenue. Currently, due to those fixed weirs, we're only able to lower the levels to the top of those weir structures, but with the adjustable gates, we'll be able to draw down the water levels much more effectively and efficiently. The second project we're looking at is to install a second drainage pipe under Johnson Street at Rose Price Park. This would double the capacity that currently exists for all of the lake areas and chapel trails that flow through that existing single pipe and into the main outfall canal that leads up to Sheridan Street and eventually up to the Griffin Road Canal, which is the C11 canal. We feel this will be a big benefit in allowing us to move more water out of the chapel trails area, again, both before when we're drawing down water levels, during a storm, and definitely after a storm. We're also currently working on improving the conveyance of water from the south end of the Hidden Lake and Hidden Lake community under 208th Avenue and through the wetland areas and into the Chapel Trail Lake system. This is a project that we think will help to allow the maximum amount of water to move through that system and help out the Hidden Lake community in lowering their lake levels and improving the capacity of that lake to drain through into that same outfall canal that leads up to the C11 canal. We're also looking at putting in an additional drainage gate at our S1 pump station, which is located at the south end of University Drive, just north of the Homestead Turnpike extension. This will be a benefit for those properties that are on the eastern side of our district that border along University Drive, and again, allow us to move water out more efficiently before storms, during storms, and after storms. All of those projects that I mentioned are fully funded, and we're currently working on getting them completed. We're also looking to put in a Basin Interconnect at Flamingo Road, north of Pembroke Road. This is a joint project with the city of Pembroke Pines under a hazardous mitigation grant through the state. And this would be an important project to allow us to move water from one area of our district, one drainage basin, into another if the conditions would allow that. We actually were able to do that during times following Tropical Storm ETA. And so to have an adjustable gate that we can operate in that manner would be a big benefit for those basins that border that future improvement. South Broward Drainage District also has an ongoing maintenance program for all of our stormwater pump stations and flood control gates. And this year, we're going to be doing the following improvements under our annual maintenance plan. We're going to be rebuilding one diesel engine, one of our large diesel engines at our S5 pump station. This is the pump station that sits at the south end of our Basin 5 that serves some of the Pembroke Pines properties just south of Pines Boulevard and west of 172nd Avenue. We're also going to be rebuilding 3 stormwater pumps at different pump station locations, all of which will benefit the city of Pembroke Pines residents. And we're going to be rebuilding or replacing 5 gear drives at various pump stations. So as I mentioned, all of these projects are fully funded projects, and we hope to have all of them completed by June 1st of 2021. In addition to those projects, the district is evaluating other possible drainage improvement projects. We're looking to at the feasibility of adding 2 new drainage connections at the south end of our Basin 5. This would be at the south end of Southwest 196th Avenue. Again, that would serve those properties in Pembroke Pines that are south of Pines Boulevard and west of 172nd Avenue. We're also looking to install a similar gate in the area of Southwest 145th Avenue, and this would serve those properties that are south of Pines Boulevard, right along the I-75 corridor, both east and west. These would be gates that would have direct connections into the C9 canal and would just help us to move more water out pre, during, and post storms. We're also looking at the feasibility of adding a stormwater pump station, a small stormwater pump station at the Hidden Lake area, either at the north end of the lake into the US 27 canal, or possibly at the south end of the canal that would drain east into the Chapel Trail outfall canal. So that's something we're going to be evaluating and looking at. And then in addition to that, we're always looking at other Drainage improvements, we have a ongoing program to improve older drainage pipes, reinforce those pipes. So we'll be doing some of that work this fiscal year, and any other drainage improvements that we feel will be a benefit to the residents of the district.